So good update, Ford already got back to me within 10 minutes of leaving for my test drive. We lubricated the center support bearing for the axle, knowing that it's cold out. We've had several 0-degree days, salty roads and stuff like that. So blew a crap ton of silicone inside that bearing to push out anything that may be there. And then ran it in the air for a while to make sure that the sound, the screeching sound from the center support bearing didn't come back. And it didn't come back. I took it for a test drive, put it in the air, redrove it again. Ford got back to me really fast and said, you know what, just do whatever you think needs to be done. Any kind of noisy part or something like that, replace each one individually and address the customer's concern, obviously. But those front hub half shafts, they are kind of noisy. That's why they put so much shielding and stuff underneath the vehicle so it can't be heard. So I'm going to start with the driver's side wheel bearing and see if it gets rid of that ticking, because there is a faint tick sound coming from it. So far, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. It's actually easier than most of the other wheel bearings. It's just a bunch of 21mm nuts to get the wheel off. And once you get the wheel off, you just actually pull the whole caliper off and hang it from a caliper hook. And it's just two 18mm bolts that hold it into through the actual knuckle into the backing plate. And then once you get that, actually I forgot here, there's an 8mm that has to come off that's attached to this brake line bracket. And then there's to get the wheel speed sensor out, and you just wiggle it side to side and twist it back and forth, and eventually it'll come out. It actually holds it, the wheel speed sensor right there. And then you can work on getting the 18mm bolts out of the back of it here. There's 4 of them. And then there's 2 on the other side as well. I'm working on getting them out right now. Okay, I got 4 bolts out. I broke them loose with a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar and a shorty. And I'm just using a 3/8 long ratchet and a long 18mm socket. Got them out. Now I'm going to tap on the wheel bearing on the outside and see if it'll come right out of there. Okay, I just kind of tapped it one way, tapped it the other way until it just slowly walked its way out. Got to clean up all the rust inside the housing. The part number for the wheel bearing, LB5Z 1104A. I'm going to go ahead and clean everything up with a nice soft wire brush and then install the new wheel bearing. Okay, got the hub face and everything all cleaned out. I'm going to wipe it out one final time. I had to get a little aggressive with it because there was a lot of surface rust. I actually had to take a file in this bottom area down here, and I had to just lightly rub my file back and forth until all the surface rust chipped out of there. Yeah, so let's install the new wheel bearing, and I'll show you the bolt kit and stuff that I'm going to use. Okay, the 4 bolts you'll need comes in this package W719969 S900, and there's 4 of them in here. That's what holds the hub on. And then your CV axle nut is a LB5Z3 Bravo 477A. Now I'm gonna go ahead and torque everything down. So I pulled up the specs for it. Your CV axle nut is 98 foot-pounds. If you want to torque down the little nuts here, it says it's 106 inch-pounds. And your hub bolts are 66 foot-pounds and then plus 45 degrees. Everything's put back together. I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel and everything on and torque everything down. Shows you the pattern on which they want you to torque. Basically star pattern. 150 foot-pound torque. And that's the gist of it. I'm going to put it back together and let's go test drive it. I'm actually going to hang it up for tonight. The little chattering sound that I heard from the wheel bearing and how rusty it was, and already failing at 6,700 miles. That did go away, but that's not the distinct sound that's being heard inside the cabin of the vehicle. That tick sound is still there. So there's going to be another part to this. And Ford said what they wanted me to do is any part that does not sound right that you think needs to be replaced, replace it. Probably because they don't know what's going on. The next step will be actually replacing the front axle drive actuator. And it's a sleeve that the CV axle slides into, and then it slides into the assembly bolted to the side of the engine, and it has a electronically actuated device in the center of it that opens and closes or applies and doesn't apply based on whether or not it needs that CV axle on the front left side to actuate. So that will be next, and that's where I'm leaving this right now. So here's the video on how to replace the wheel bearing and what it takes to get it on and off and the part numbers. But this did not fix the distinct problem that you're hearing inside the cabin. There's more to come. I got to get to work tomorrow and then order that hub, that front axle drive actuator assembly, which is probably going to be on back order. It's probably not something that's just sitting on somebody's shelf because it's a very unique part. And when I have the electronic tester on my ears and I'm listening with my chassis ears to that bearing, it's not like any of the other bearings. It sounds really chattery, really lumpy, almost like it's got a little howl to it, like it's starting to go out. So that will be the next step. On this rotational issue, I thought at first, did I just look at this wrong? Could it be that there's a rock in the tire and that's what I'm hearing? Tick, 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 tick. So I get it back in the shop, put it in the air, sure enough, I start rotating the tire. There were a couple big rocks in the tire that could have caused that sound. So I cleaned out the tire tread, went back out and re-drove it again, thinking that, man, you've missed one of the most basic steps, which thankfully that was not the problem, because I would have felt silly. And I cleaned the tread out because there were a few rocks that had some nice wear spots in them that were stuck in the tires for quite a while, it seems. And the tick is still there. So the front actuator, or the front axle drive actuator, will be the next replacement. So there will be a part 3.